Demon Slayer Season 3. After the endless train arc, the Red Light District arc begins. We are shown Kibutsuji Muzan as a foster child who suffers from a sunburned skin disease. He does experiments. Muzan ordered all other demons to find the blue spider lily. It was the key ingredient in the experiment that turned him into a demon. Akaza comes and says he couldn't find it. Instead, he proudly says that he killed Hashira of Flame. Muzan is only angered by this as he needs all the hunters to be killed. He's furious that Akaza only killed Hashira and left 3 weak hunters alive. He doesn't understand why Akaza didn't kill them. Muzan thinks that even the third upper moon cannot be relied on. Soon he calms down and sends him to do business. Then, Akaza remembers the moment when he runs away from the sun and Tanjiro was yelling after him. He remembers him, and the next time he meets Tanjiro, he wants to kill him, of course. After we are shown the main characters who are in the House of Butterfly. Zenitsu steals the bonds to give to Tanjiro, but he isn't in his room. Tanjiro goes along with Keijiro Crow to the Rengoku's family house. At the entrance, he meets Senjiro and realizes that he is already aware of his brother's death. Tanjiro says that he comes here to say the last words of Keijiro to his brother and father. Next, the drunk Rengoku's father comes. He begins to expel Tanjiro, saying that his son Keijiro was mediocre and probably said some kind of nonsense. He tells that his son is a fool who became a swordsman. He died because of himself. Tanjiro, hearing all this, asks him to calm down because Keijiro wasn't like that. But his father doesn't care because he is drunk. Tanjiro says that he would not allow such a great person as Keijiro to be insulted. After these words, Kyojiro's father sees Hanafuda earrings on Tanjiro. He realizes that Tanjiro possesses the breath of the sun. Then he runs up to him and knocks him to the ground. Senjiro tried to calm his father, but he hits him. Tanjiro freed himself and told the drunkard to calm down and stop insulting his dead son and beating his second son. But Kyojiro's father said that Tanjiro came here to mock his family. For the breath of the sun, which it possesses, is the first breath from which all styles of breaths have come. Tanjiro doesn't understand anything and thinks that the conversation is about the dance of the god of fire. After Senjiro's father continued to insult the Kyojiro and Tanjiro hit him with his forehead. Tanjiro then apologizes to Senjiro for this. Senjiro asked how his brother died and Tanjiro told him everything. Senjiro is proud of his brother because he is a pillar of flame and positive until the end of his life. After that, he gave Tanjiro the notes of 21st Hashiras of the Flame that might be able to answer his questions. But unfortunately, the records were torn. Tanjiro told the boy not to get upset because he knew what to do next. He will train to become stronger. His goal was to reach the level of Keijiro. Tanjiro thought that if he had been stronger then, perhaps Keijiro would still be alive today. Senjiro laughed, said that he would try to restore those records, and in the end he decided to give Tanjiro the guard of the Keijiro's Nichiren blade. He wanted to be with Tanjiro and protect him. Tanjiro honorably accepted this gift and went back to the butterfly house. There, Haga Nezuko was waiting for him, who was very angry at Tanjiro for losing his Nichiren blade. 4 months have passed since Kyojiro's death. All this time, the guys were engaged in improving themselves and completed the tasks of the crows to destroy the demons. Tanjiro and Nezuko traveled to the northwest to find the Mantis Mountain demon's lair and destroy it. After quickly dealing with it, they returned to the butterfly house. There, they saw a pillar of sound, Uzui Tengen. He was taking Aoi and Naho for his mission. Tanjiro then appeared and asked him to let the girls go and tried to headbutt him. Uzui dodged his attack easily and said that he is a Hashira of sound and a former ninja and was the girls to a mission. Soon after realizing that Naho was not a swordsman, he abandoned her. But he still decided to take Aoi. Tanjiro told Uzui to let Naho to go and take him, Zenitsu and Inosuke instead. Uzui agreed on the condition that they obey him. He said that they would go to the Red Light District, which is the demon slayer. He also added that he is the god of brightness and festivals. They go to the Red Light District. The the guys, having got there, were shocked by the brightness of lanterns and beautiful girls. Tengen warned the guys not to draw attention and explained to them what the Red Light District is. It's a night city of love and hate. The city sleeps during the day and stays awake at night, an ideal place for demons. Girls get here because of doubt and poverty. Here they get clothes, food, and a roof over their heads. There are girls who are bought out and they work for their buyer, bringing them money. The most elite are called oirans. In addition to beauty, they are smart and trained in art. After this story, the guys got to their temporary base in the hostel. Hashira said that the first thing they would need to do was find his wife. To do this, undercover guys will need to infiltrate several establishments. Hashira himself will collect information about the demon. Zenitsu, hearing this, was against Tengen using them for personal purposes. Hashira explained that his wife was gathering information here, but then suddenly disappeared. Then he reveals that he has 3 wives. Their names are Makio, Suma, and Hinatsura. They are excellent kunaichi ninja. Tengen himself had already been here as a client, and finding no traces of demons, he sent his wives here. So they reduced the search circle to 3 establishments. There they will look for wives and gather information. For cover, the guys had to dress up as girls and change their names. Zenitsu will be Zenka. Inosuke will be the silent girl Inoka, and Tanjiro will be the Tsumika. Tsumika was accepted first thanks to Tengen's appearance. Seeing the gathering of people, everyone went there. It was the Oiran procession Koinatsu who was going to meet the guest. Inoka was noticed by the manager of the establishment, Wagimota. They took her there. After washing off her makeup, they were shocked to see Inoki's beautiful face. Then Zenki was accepted to the establishment Kyogoku, where she played the samisen very well. After that, we were transferred to Tsumiki, who was scolded for hiding her huge scar on her head. Then she was asked to carry Koinatsu Oiran's gifts. Tsumika found that some girls were able to escape from here without even paying their debts. As an example, Oiran Suma, the wife of Tengen, and Tsumika began to ask about her. After that, Oiran Kainatsu appeared and asked why the new girl was so interested in Suma. Tsumiki had to lie that Suma is her older sister and she is worried about her. Then from Suma's diary, it turned out that she had run away. But Kainatsu herself doesn't believe this. Tanjiro thought that the diary might be fake and that there were a demon behind all these escapes. He hopes that Suma is alive and they can save her. We are returned to Inoki, who heard the conversation about Makio, one of Tengen's wives. It turned out that she had been feeling bad lately and she didn't leave the room. Inoka decided to look into her room and saw untouched food at the door. At this point, Makio couldn't get out as she was captured by the demon. The demon heard Inoki's footsteps, and when he entered the room, the demon and Makio had already disappeared. Inosuke heard movement outside the walls and using the breath of the beast began to pursue. He realized that the demon was moving through the walls and began to hunt him down. Then we are shown a fragment 2 days before the appearance of hunters in the quarter, where Oiran Kefirawara Behime came to the host list of the establishment Kogoku. Hostess started blaming Oiran for the disappearances. She also confirmed her words with stories from her childhood, where one of the grandmothers told a story about Oiran, who was incredibly beautiful, but with a very bad temper. Her grandmother said that she was such Oiran at different times in her life, and all of them had a name that ended in Hime. Anitsu thinks she is facing one of those Oirans. Immediately after her story, Anitsu ends up on the roof of the house. She is held in hands of the 6th highest moon, Daki, which was all this Oiran that the mistress heard about. Daki said if Anitsu had been silent, she would have remained alive, and the demon threw her to the ground. Anitsu died. Returning back to the room, she saw Kibutsuji Muzan. He told Daki that he's proud of her and hopes that she would become even tougher and stronger. He talked about Nezuko, the second demon to be out of his control. He wants Daki to heal her. Kibutsuji said that hunters would come here soon and among them would be Hashira. Daki must kill them. We are returned to Zenki, who is thinking about how to find Tengen's wife and listen to every sound to find information about the Hinatsuru. Zenki was in the brother where Dake killed the owner Amitsu. Then she heard the cry of a girl who was sitting in the messy room. This was the Warabihime room. She silently appeared behind Zenki. From her voice, Zenka realized that it was a demon, and since she didn't hear her coming, she assumed that it was a demon from the moon above. After that, Oiran asked what this terrible girl Zenka was doing here. The girls appeared and tried to calm down Oiran and get Zenki out of here. Zenka started apologizing to Oiran in order to have time to relay the information to the rest of the hunters. Warabihime switched to the crying girl and grabbed her by her ear. The ear started bleeding. Seeing this, Zenka intervened and grabbed Demon's hand, telling her to let the girl go. The demon was shocked and knocked out Zenka with one blow. Then the owner of the establishment appeared and calmed down the Oiran. The demon realized that Zenka was most likely a hunter since her body was able to block the blow. Then the girls carried Zenka to a separate room where she was then grabbed by a demon with his belts. After we were transferred to Tsumiki, who was cleaning at that time. The next day, Tanjiro met with Inosuke. Zenitsu and Tengen were supposed to come there too. While they were away, Inosuke began to tell Tanjiro that there was a demon in the brothel. Tengen appeared and said that Zenitsu won't come because she hasn't been heard from since last night. Tengen regrets that Zenitsu is gone, and in order not to lose Tanjiro and Inosuke, he asks them to leave. He didn't want to endanger low-rank hunters and left. At this time, Tanjiro realizes that they have risen 4 steps higher in the ranking ladder. Also, their signs are displayed on the hand in the form of Visteria after pronouncing a special phrase. As a result, after a little thought, the guys decided to continue the mission. But Tanjiro asked Inosuke to wait for him until the evening, as he hadn't finished his investigation yet. After comparing the stories, Tanjiro realized that the demon had secret passages under the houses, thanks to which he moved between the brothels. Tanjiro went to his house and went to Oiran Kainatsu. He confessed to her that he was a guy and said that he wanted to save everyone. Kainatsu knew from the start that Tsumika was a guy in disguise, but she didn't understand why he was doing it. She also said that tomorrow she will leave this place as she is getting married. Tanjiro wished Kainatsu good luck and left the house. Right after he left, Daki appeared. She came here for Kainatsu before she left. After we were shown Inosuke, who was tired of waiting for Tanjiro and broke the ceiling with his head so that mice with muscles would pass his blade and musk. It turns out that Tengen has a whole detachment of such mice. He calls them mice with muscles or ninja mouse. After Inosuke took his clothes and the blade went in the search of demons. At the same time, Uzui reached the owner of the Kyogoku house where Zenitsu and Hinatsura had appeared. He asked what happened to them. The owner replied that Zenka is missing and Hinatsura is sick. Uzui asked who looked suspicious in this house, and the owner, remembering his dead wife Amitsu, said that it was Oiran Warabihime. She lived in a room in the north where the sun doesn't hit during the day. Going there, Uzui found no one and he thought that the demon was on the hunt. If he doesn't find her that night, then in the morning he will come to this room again and will kill the demon here. In parallel with all this, Tanjiro, who was running along the roof, smelled the smell of the demon, which was nearby. This scene led him back to Kainatsu's room where he saw Daki absorbing her into his belt. From the inscription on the eye of the demon, he realized that the 6th highest moon was now standing in front of him. He took out his blade and told the demon to let go of Kainatsu. This infuriated the demon and she hit Tanjiro with all her strength. He was shocked by the speed of the demon, but his body had time to react and therefore he wasn't injured. After that, the demon, having finished absorbing the Kainatsu in the vase, went out in the street. She liked Tanjiro's eyes, so she wants to rip them out and eat them. Further, using the force water style, he was able to cut off the part of the demon's spell that had Kainatsu in it. He realized that he would have to fight the 6th upper moon alone. So he started using Hinokami Kagura, but he was too slow and the demon repelled his attack without any problems. Because of this, he broke his breast and received many punches from the demon. However, he continued to fight. Then we're shown Tengen, who found his demon-bound wife Hinatsuru. The demon saw through her, and in order to escape from the house, Hina poisoned herself with the weak poison. But this didn't help her, since the demon was able to find her with her belt. Tengen gave Hinatsuri an antidote and told her to leave this place. And when he heard that a battle was going on nearby, he went to this place. The sound came from underground. Using the thunder technique, he headed deep into the earth. To explain everything that happened, we were shown Inosuke, who an hour before was running and breaking walls and floors to find the demon's moves. Under the floor, he found a narrow passage that led him to the demon's vault. There, everything was run by the secondary body of the demon, his belt. Inosuke saw the hidden people in the belt and Zenitsu. Soon the belt began to attack him. Inosuke began to cut off parts of it, from which people fell out. They all were alive. After the belt began to absorb people again, Makio and Suma appeared and they began to help Inosuke. Following them, Zenitsu woke up and began to cut the belt. And by this moment, Tengen appears, who soon won the belt. Tengen's wives, Suma and Makio, noticed how much he had changed, since he went against the rules of the ninja. In his family, a boy chooses 3 wives when he turns 15. So the same happened with Tengen, and only Suma proposed him. Then he told them that wives are the most important people in his life. In second place are the lives of the inhabitants, and at the end, his own life. Then Tengen went to the real body of the demon, while his wives evacuated people. Inosuke and Zenitsu followed him. At this point, Tanjiro was out of breath, and the parts of the belt returned to the demon, and her strength doubled. The noise of the battle woke the inhabitants of the city. Their appearance enraged the demon. She cut all the nearby houses with people and wounded Tanjiro. The demon didn't want to waste time on him and wanted to leave, but Tanjiro stopped her. We were shown a fragment of a memory where Shinjiro Rengoku sent a letter to Tanjiro. After meeting Tanjiro and losing his son, he realized that he was wrong and thanks him for grieving for his eldest son. He added that he is ashamed of his behavior. He said that when his wife died of an illness, he began to blame himself for his own helplessness. As a result, he started drinking too much alcohol. Shinjiro understands that Kojiro was a worthy son and is grateful to his wife because she awarded his children with wonderful genes. Shinjiro wrote that Tanjiro has more strengths and he can use the breeze of the sun. The mark on his forehead is a proof of that. But Tanjiro, even knowing all this, understood that he was not the chosen one, since this is not a birthmark, but a burn scar. He also damaged it during the final selection, that is why he looks like this now. He heard that his father also had a small birthmark on his forehead, but still doesn't consider himself as chosen one. However, despite this, he's not going to give up and continues to fight the demons. Then his eyes turned red. And when the demon was about to jump, he grabbed her in a second and chopped off her leg. Tanjiro asked her why demons hate people so much and what other people's lives mean to them. After all, demons were also once human. While he was saying all this, flashbacks began to appear in Daki's mind. These were not her memories, but the cellular memory of Kibutsuji Muzan. Yurichi once said the same words to him. This was the only demon hunter that Muzan was afraid of. These were all memories of these cells in Daki's body. She replayed that demons do not grow old, do not die, are always beautiful and strong. Tanjiro then instantly moved towards her and was about to cut off her neck, but the demon managed to transform its neck into a belt, and due to its flexibility, it couldn't cut through it. After that, she created even more belts, but Tanjiro was able to beat them all off and collect them in a heap. Soon, Tanjiro began to cough. This was the limit of his strength. Daki was about to kill, but Nezuko, with one hit, split the demon's head in half. Nezuko at the moment remembered the day when all her family were killed. Daki understood that the Kibutsuji Muzan talked about her and she needs to be killed. Daki cut off Nezuko's arm and head and was about devoured in her belt, but Nezuko recovered in seconds. Nezuko's body has grown, a horn on her head, and her body is covered with leaves. Tanjiro was unconscious at the time, and he remembered his little brother who said that he and Nezuko are very similar. They are both very kind, but when they get angry, they become very scary. He saw all this when Nezuko demanded an apology from the rude man and who pushed and injured the child, completely forgetting about his own safety. Tanjiro's little brother wanted to say that when a person is angry, he doesn't control himself and may lose something valuable. And after that, he began to wake up Tanjiro. If he doesn't stop Nezuko, then she will never be the same again. We were then taken back to the battlefield again, where Daki realized that Nezuko's regeneration was much higher than hers. But the demon continued to beat her and tear off her limbs. Nezuko combines her limbs and used her demonic blood art on it, causing it to burn. And Daki began to have memories from the past when she was still human. Nezuko then recovered her body and threw Daki through the houses with multiple punches. Then Nezuko, entering one of the houses, smelled the blood of a person and wanted to bite him. Then Tanjiro appeared and stopped her with his blade, but he couldn't calm her down. Soon the injured Daki regained consciousness. She was very angry and was going to kill everyone who was around. Tanjiro thought about how he could save the people and keep Nezuko at the same time. But when Daki began to attack, Uzui appeared. He cut her belt and cut off her head. Uzui asked Tanjiro to calm his sister and offered to sing her a lullaby. When Tanjiro flew outside with Nezuko, he remembered his mother's lullaby and began to sing it. Nezuko heard him and started crying as she remembered her mother. She turned into a child and fell asleep. At this time, Tengen noticed that Daki didn't disappear even though her head was cut out. She began to cry a lot and called for her brother. Suddenly, a body appeared from it. It was Daki's older brother, the lean Gyutaro, who during Tengen's attack immediately wounded him in the head with his sickles, covered in deadly poison. Gyutaro became jealous of Tengen because of his appearance and his 3 wives, so he decided to kill him. He attacked him with a blade soaked in his own blood. To save everyone, Tengen broke through the floor and told people to leave. Then he took out his mini bombs and threw them at the demons. The demons defended themselves with Daki's belts. Gyutaro further said that he and his sister are one and cannot be defeated alone. Afterwards, we were shown Inosuke and Zenitsu, who were walking towards the battlefield and met Tanjiro. He said he goes to take Nezuko to her box. After placing her into a box, he returned to Tengen, where Gyutaro continued to be jealous of Tengen, thinking that he was blessed with talent since childhood. But Tengen objected, saying that he didn't consider himself special. Gyutaro responded by asking if he wasn't the chosen one. Then, why is he still on his feet after the deadly poison on his sickles? He should have hit the ground by now. Tengen reveals that he was a ninja and his father forced him and his siblings to harsh trainings because he was afraid that their clan would die out. In the end, only Uzui and his brother, who is 2 years younger, survived. His little brother was exactly the same character as their father. For him, subordinates were just pawns and wives were needed only to give birth to children. But Uzui himself didn't want to be like his father. He wanted to save people, and this desire was noticed by Kagaya Uboyashike. After we were brought back to the battlefield, where it became obvious that Uzui is hardened by poisons, but little by little the poison began to act. Gyutaro said that Hashira was only pretending to be cool and he would die soon. Uzui began to attack the demons and separated them. He attempted to decapitate Gyutaro but was only able to cut his neck. Then Inosuke, Zenitsu and Tanjiro appeared. Uzui told the guys that in order to defeat these demons, they need to be beheaded. But Gyutaro said that many tried to do it, but no one managed to leave until the morning. He added that he had already killed 15 Hashiras, his sister had killed 7. After that, Daki started to attack, but Zenitsu grabbed her with lightning speed and lifted her above the ground. Inosuke also went to fight the demons. Gyutaru's eyes appeared on her forehead. She awakened and then her true power returned to her. During this time, Tanjiro and Tengen began to fight against Gyutaru. Tanjiro immediately began to think about how he could protect the poisoned Uzui. Gyutaru attacked him. He was saved from the hit by Hashira. Bells soon began to appear, which Gyutaru controlled through his eyes on Daki's forehead. Tanjiro began to defend himself along with Uzui. When they got outside, Hinatsuru appeared on the roof. She fired a bunch of kunais at everyone, but Gyutaru repulsed them. Uzui took advantage of this and cut off the legs of the demon, stuck a kunai treated with wisteria juice into his neck. It stopped Gyutaru's regeneration, and Tanjiro with Uzui tried to behead him. But the demon was able to recover a little, and he, using the art of his blood, created spherical tornadoes. To prevent Tanjiro from getting hurt, Uzui threw him back and attacked the demon. But Gyutaru suddenly appeared near Hinatsura to kill her. Uzui tried to break through to her, but the belts prevented him. And then Tanjiro, having combined the style of water and Hinakami Kagura, cut off the hands of the demon and freed Hinatsuru. Afterwards, we are shown the memories of Uzui and his wife, where Hinatsuru offered to live a normal life after defeating the demon of the upper moon. This was their promise. We are brought back to where the demon attacked Tanjiro, but Tengen appeared and repelled the attack. They then attacked the demon's neck at the same time, but he was able to stop their attacks and used blood art to do that. Uzui grabbed him and jumped away so the others wouldn't get hurt. After that, Zenitsu and Inosuke came to this place fighting Daki. Daki was going to kill Hinatsuru, but the guys saved her. After that, the three of them decided to behead Daki. Zenitsu and Tanjiro took over the belts, and Inosuke, using the breath of the beast, was able to get to the head and saw off her head. He grabbed his head and began to run away so that the demon wouldn't connect back. Gyutaru, having cut off Hashira's left arm, suddenly appeared behind Inosuke and pierced his heart. Zenitsu then shrieks and pushes Tanjiro away from the impact of the belts. Falling down, Tanjiro apologized for his weakness and soon lost consciousness. When he regained consciousness, he saw Nezuko. She told him not to apologize because people make mistakes. Looking around, Tanjiro saw that everything had been destroyed. When he turned around, Gyutaru was sitting in front of him watching Daki. Gyutaru said that everyone but him is no longer capable of anything. Inosuke's heart and Zenitsu filled up with the debris and soon he would die. Uzui died of poison. Gyutaru called Tanjiro pathetic. After all, he's protected by his sister. In addition, she's the demon, although everything should be the other way around. Tanjiro suddenly grabbed Nezuko's box and started to run away. The demon hit him, throwing him into the burning house. Tanjiro was able to get out of there, but the demon hit him again and kept calling him pathetic. After that, he offered Tanjiro to become a demon, and if he refuses, he will kill him. But Tanjiro, in response, raised his head up and hit the demon with all his strength, simultaneously sticking a wisteria kunai into it. Tanjiro, using Hinakami Kagura, hit the demon on the neck, and at the moment, Gyutaru reminded him of himself. Tanjiro did his best so that the blade began to cut through Gyutaru's neck. Daki, seeing that her brother was losing, decided to intervene, but suddenly she was stopped by Zenitsu, who, with the help of divine speed, got out from under the rubble. He was going to behead Daki, but his strength began to run out. At this time, Gyutaru was able to pull out a kunai with his blood and parry Tanjiro's hit, and the demon almost overtook him, but suddenly Tengen appeared and repulsed his attack. To prevent the poison from spreading, Uzui stopped his heart. He also managed to calculate the trajectories of the demon attacks using the calculation technique. Tengen pierced the demon with his sword and asked Tanjiro to cut off the demon's head in a jump. But the demon unexpectedly stuck his sickle under the Tanjiro's tongue. He wanted to kill him with his poison. Tanjiro has already crossed his limit more than once, and in the place of the scar, Demon Slayer mark appeared exactly the same as that of the first breath user Yorichi. In the end, he was able to cut through the demon's neck and his head flew off. Inosuke returned to consciousness. It turns out that he can swap organs and that's why he is still alive. They managed to cut Daki's head. Daki and a Gutouge's hat stopped facing each other. Soon, Tanjiro began to choke due to the poison in his blood and was unable to breathe properly. It also turned out that this wasn't the end, as Gotouge prepared a mixture of his own blood, which was going to destroy everything within a radius of a couple of 100 meters. But Nezuko used her blood art and reduced the damage. Tanjiro suddenly came to himself and saw that everything was destroyed. But when he saw Nezuko, he realized that she had saved him. He decided to see what had become to the others, but he couldn't get up. Then they heard Zenitsu's screams. Nezuko came to help him as Tanjiro couldn't walk. Zenitsu didn't understand what was happening around him and he was in pain. Then he added that Inosuke was also alive, but his heartbeat was getting slower and quieter. Tanjiro and Nezuko reached Inosuke. His body was half poisoned and he was dying. But Nezuko, using her blood art, was able to burn off all the poison. Inosuke was saved. After we are shown Tengen, who was even more covered with poison. His wife sat next to him and wept. Nezuko soon appeared and set Tengen on fire with her blood. All the poison on his body was burned away and he was completely healed. Tanjiro said he was glad that Tengen had survived, and Tengen realized that the most opportune moment had come to leave the hunters and live in peace with his wives. Later, Tanjiro left the guys and went to look for the head of the demons. He found a pool of Gutouge's blood and took a blood sample for Tamayo. Then he found the heads of the demons who were cursing each other. The sister scolded the brother for being a loser, and Gotouge replied that Daki would have been killed a long time ago if there wasn't him. Tanjiro joined this conversation and stopped Gutouge's mouth. He wanted them to stop arguing because they were the only ones each other has. Daki started to shut Tanjiro up and ask her brother to do something. She soon disappeared. Gotouge realized that his sister was gone and he remembered her name was Uma, not Daki, and they began to show us their childhood. It turned out that Uma was the name of the disease from which their mother died. She lived in the lower class of the red light districts. For the mother, children were only a burden and she wanted to get rid of Gotouge many times. But he was able to survive it all. In the district, he was hated and mocked because of his voice and appearance, since in red light districts they value only beauty. But everything changed with the appearance of Uma, who was incredibly beautiful. Gyutaro, realizing that he was fighting well, started collecting doubts, and his beautiful sister dispelled his feelings of inferiority. It seemed that everything in his life was getting better, but one day, when he came home from work, he found the burned but living body of his sister. She was burned alive for gouging out the eye of a samurai client with a hairpin. Gyutaro was angry at everyone who did this to his sister. The samurai cut his back from behind, but Gyutaro was able to kill him, and he and his sister began to wander. They were met at home by the second upper moon. Seeing them, he could not pass by and shared his blood with them. Next, we were transferred to their minds, where Gyutaro was thinking that he didn't regret becoming a demon. He regrets only one thing, that Uma's life could have been better. And Gyutaro thought that if there wasn't him, Uma would have become Oren and would have built a family. After Uma appeared and began to apologize to her brother and ask him not to leave her, reminding him of their promise. They accepted their fate and went to the fire. In the real world, they disappeared completely and the battle was over. Then we were transferred to Tengen. Abanai came to him, a pillar of a snake. He praised Tengen for being able to kill the weakest upper moon, and it sounded more like a reproach than a praise. He then asked what Tengen would do next without his left arm and left eye, and when he plans to return, and who will replace him. Tengen replied that he would retire as he could no longer fight. He is confident that Ubuyashiki will allow him to do so. Abanai himself was against his departure, as too many young people are now dying. Uzui replied that he would not go back on his words. He also asked to pay attention to Tanjiro, who has strong potential. Abanai was shocked how Tanjiro was able to survive this battle. After that, the crows began spreading the news of the annihilation of the upper moon. Ubuyashiki was very happy to hear this. His condition was not good. He said that nothing had changed for hundreds of years, and finally there was progress. Ubuyashiki hopes that the current generation will be able to defeat Kibutsuji Muzan. Then we're transferred to Akaza, who appeared in another dimension of the Castle of Infinity. He realized that the hunters had killed the Upper Moon. Afterwards, we were shown a happy Tengen and his wives, and Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, and Zenitsu celebrating their victory.